Good morning, everyone. Good morning. And welcome to the 12th Annual University Conference on Teaching, Learning, and Technology. Baker's dozen, 13? 14th. Baker's dozen plus one. Look at that. Next year, somebody remind me that it's the 15th, okay? I am Ping Ann Addo. I am one of the co-directors of the Center for Innovative Teaching, and I'm honored to open the conference, welcome you here to our conference for this year entitled Adapting Our Teaching Practices, Meeting Today's Learners Where They Are. When we think about this theme, Meeting Today's Learners Where They Are, I did the very scholarly thing of doing a Google search on that phrase. And several things come up, one of which was a list of 6 things that make college teachers successful from the Faculty Focus website. They study the knowledge base of teaching and learning. They accept all who enter the classroom and get to know them. They plan for instructional management. In other words, our classes do not run themselves. And there are the others there to help us, some of whom you'll meet today. We teach with a variety of strategies. We use assessment to inform students of their achievement, not just to inform ourselves of their progress. We keep the passion and the connection. Then I did a second Google search. Practical ways to upgrade your teaching practice. Basically, the first and most resonant point on that website, which is from Central University of Portland, a teaching blog that they run, the most important point there was watch your colleagues. And so I'm excited that we're all going to be in the room today, connecting and watching and learning from one another today. When we think of the theme, reaching students where they are, it's also important to think of reaching them for who they are. Now, I worry as I say that because English teachers in the room might say, should I have said for whom they are? I'm never quite sure how that works. But you know what I mean. So let's think about where our students are and who our students are. I don't want to take too much time, more time for this, except besides the welcome. I would like to recognize the organizing committee of the conference, my wonderful colleagues who at this point have become collaborators and professional friends. I'd like to recognize first and foremost the Assistant Director of the Office for Faculty Development, Camille Martinez, Dr. Camille Martinez. Who's our committee head. I'd like to also recognize our colleague, Dr. Judith Goldman from Department of English, retired now, but the Director of the Office for Faculty Development right here. You'll meet her shortly. Other colleagues, Dr. Itai Halavi, also from English, on the committee. Please stand so we know who you are, although we can see you, Itai. Like, we can see him, right? Dr. Sarah Akar from Curriculum and Instruction. Dr. Oliver Chen from IT. Did I miss anybody? Apurva Mehta from IT. Jean Schwalb from ELIS, electronic learning, and what do you call that? E-learning and instructional services. And Dr. Patricia Kruger-Henney from the College of Education. None of those 3 could join us, but I wanted to just let you know that a large team of people collaborate to bring this to us. In addition to recognizing the organizing committee, I just would like to remind you that we'll be shifting locations a little bit today. We are here for lunch, but all of our sessions are going to be happening in University Hall, affectionately known as U Hall by the students, is my understanding. And they will be on the 4th floor. There will be people at the foot of the stair to guide you. Just take the elevator up. And we'll go back. We will have our sessions. After this opening remarks, we'll have the sessions there. And then we will come back for lunch. And then we will go back for afternoon sessions. So I just wanted to declare the conference open and tell you to enjoy your time connecting and listening to one another. I'd like to introduce again Dr. Judith Goldman to introduce our.
Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce to you today our keynote speaker, Dr. Lorna Rivera, whose talk is titled Using Community Cultural Wealth Frameworks to Advance Academic Success for Latinx College Students and English Learners. Dr. Lorna Rivera is an associate professor in women's, gender, and Latino studies, and also the director of the Gastón Institute for Latino Community Development and Public Policy at UMass Boston. This past February, Mayor Marty Walsh appointed Dr. Rivera to the 7-person Boston School Committee as its newest member. Since 2016, she has been a principal investigator on the Latino Student Success Initiative, a partnership with Bunker Hill Community College that aims to increase enrollment, retention, and graduation rates for Latinx and bilingual college students. In her remarks, Dr. Rivera will highlight some of the best practices of this work, such as the development of early college ethnic studies classes for Chelsea High School students. Please welcome her. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here. Thank you all for coming. I'm not sure how to get my oh, there it is. Okay. Do this. Sorry. So yes, the theme for this year's conference here is meeting students where they are at. And I was really thinking about how this is really fundamental to the work that we're doing with the Latino Student Success Initiative, and that really knowing who our students are and who their cultural backgrounds are is one of the most fundamental ways, right, to meet students where they're at. At UMass Boston, our campus has already been a minority serving institution. We're an Asian American, Native American, Pacific Islander serving institution, and we are on the cusp of becoming a Hispanic serving institution. So for me, when we're thinking about who our students are as well at UMass Boston, how do we meet them, we also need to understand that really in the future, the majority of our students at UMass will be Latino students. I want to show you some of the numbers before I get into a little bit more about what we've done. So Latino student enrollment growth has been increasing every year at UMass Boston. In 2017 alone, Latinx students represented approximately 19.1% of all first-year students and 15.3% of all transfer students. And what's important here is that at UMass Boston, the only 2 groups of students whose share of enrollments have increased significantly are Latinx students as well as non-resident students. And those non-resident students, the majority of them are English learners. The second slide here shows as well the significant overall total Latino enrollment growth. And this is just the years 2014 to 2017, showing that we really grew 126% in that little time frame. The numbers of Latino students, almost 4 times the growth of African American students and about 5 times the growth of Asian American students. So really, Latinx student growth represents over 56% of the net student growth in our enrollment on this campus. And so I want to put that also, make that visible, because we often don't also think of ourselves perhaps as a Hispanic serving institution. And so we hope to reach this threshold of 25% is the numbers that the federal government requires to be able to be designated a Hispanic serving institution and eligible for lots of funding and partnerships for economic development and so forth. But we have to be ready to be prepared to meet those students where they're at in the future. And as we're enrolling and seeing these demographic changes in our student populations, not just at UMass Boston, but in our public schools and in our state, again, what are we, how are we going to be addressing the needs of these students? I think, too, that some of the work that I've also been doing, as you know, my research is also in education and work with public school students. We know that a lot of this work around cultural wealth is to, again, recognize that our students are not the problem. If they're not writing well, if they're, often we hear that because we have a lot of English learners in our classes in college. This is really a challenge for us as faculty, as educators, and I think that part of the problem is really the mindset of some of us in terms of thinking about how really we could address these students' needs. You know, a lot of the work that's been coming out recently, you know, builds upon the work of, people like, you know, around liberatory pedagogy, Paulo Freire, Bell Hooks, Gloria Anzaldúa, and Gloria Ladson-Billings' work on, you know, community cultural wealth. And this work has been adapted more recently by Rendon, Nora, and Kanagala, where we've identified, you know, cultural wealth frameworks, cultural capital that students of color bring with them to the classroom, experiences, assets, and knowledge that they bring. I won't have time to go over each one of these factors here, but I want to just focus a little bit more on what we're doing with the Latinx cultural wealth and the identification and research of Latinx students, particularly in higher education institutions, that these are, again, some of the assets they bring as students in our classes. I want to go back to, oops. So this is the model that I just want to, again, lightning talk here, just quick points. I won't have time to go over, since 2016, this work that we've been doing in partnership with Bunker Hill Community College and Chelsea High School. This Latino Student Success Initiative is funded by the Massachusetts Department of Higher Education, and the goal is among these three institutions to really aim to strengthen access to college, recruitment, retention, and the graduation rates for these Latinx and English learners coming from this pathway from Chelsea High School to Bunker Hill, and then from Bunker Hill to UMass Boston. The majority of Latinx students at UMass Boston transfer from Bunker Hill Community College. And then the majority of students at Bunker Hill College are coming from Chelsea High School. So there's really a great way that we've been collecting data and really strengthening those pathways for their success. But the way we've been doing this, I just want to highlight on this model, is the one in the red, is that we've been working a lot in conferences and institutes such as this, doing workshops with faculty and teachers at Chelsea High School as well, where we have had, you know, curriculum development, e-portfolio sharing of syllabi, cross-institutional teams, and this kind of work is really been instrumental in really advancing already graduation rates. We're seeing some success, you know, just a few years into this. So research finds then that, you know, meeting students where they're at is, again, understanding who our students are, that Latinx, in particular college students, tend to come from low socioeconomic backgrounds. Many are, you know, bilingual or English learners, also tend to come as first-generation students, come from academically disadvantaged backgrounds, given the disparities we see in our public education system, and they tend to work full or part-time employment while attending college. And these are some of the challenges that we face as educators in a campus like UMass Boston. Research also finds that, unfortunately, Latinx students take, on average, about 8 years to complete their 4-year degree. So for Latinx students who are enrolled in 4-year institutions, we're trying to really figure out, you know, what are sort of the predictors, and we find that their being able to graduate on time is predicted by parental, so familial, family relationships and support is critical for Latinx and English learner students, as well peer expectations, and then we look at college factors like, you know, whether there are full-time enrolled or other issues related to, you know, advising and financial aid. So we do believe then that, oops, going the wrong way. just to wrap this up, that we've been, really trying to implement asset-based approaches to understanding and supporting Latinx students, because there is a profoundly deficit-based narrative that pervades the educational discourse about our Latinx students. These sees some photos and some examples of our faculty here at UMass Boston that have been contributing over these last 3 years with trying to do cultural wealth and equity work. These are last year's photos, but there is this year's conference. I have some flyers on the desk here, and I'm hoping to email people registration link. It's in 2 weeks, so we will be able to, if you can come, participate in more of these workshops where we will delve more deeply into Latinx cultural wealth frameworks. And also wanted to say that, as we go about our workshops today, thinking about how we might address some of the questions that, that we've been dealing with faculty and teachers, such as what assets, skills, and knowledge do English learners bring to college? We know there's a lot of research about English learners in the K through 12 system. We do have some best practices, and we've done specific workshops just on working with English learners, and that's something that I want to mention because I was talking to Camille and Judy that, we'd like to be able to have more consistent engagement around these issues on our campus, and maybe we can have some workshops next year that really dive deeper into some of these best practices. And thinking as well, how do we integrate then the cultural identities of our students in our teaching? And what have been some of our experiences working with bilingual students in our classes? So I want to just end there because I'm running out of time. But again, I do want to acknowledge that, we've been doing a lot of this work on our campus, and hope that we could continue this conversation throughout the year and some professional development workshops here on our campus. And thank you again for your attention.